The chilling truth behind Iya Benji, what you never knew about her dark secret. Short's folklore in the heart of the sleepy town of Marlow, whispers curled through the air like smoke from a forgotten fire. Iya Benji, they said, was a woman touched by shadows. The locals spoke of her with a mix of fear and fascination, their voices trembling like the leaves in a gusty wind. You'd best stay away from her, they warned, eyes darting to the ground. She didn't shine like the others, instead, she flickered a candle guttering in a storm of unknowns. The strange tales had legs, bouncing from one person to the next. It was said that Iya Benji had powers, the kind that could bend reality until it broke. Her eyes, a deep, haunting blue, seemed to see right through souls, leaving a chill that crept along your spine. The air around her crackled with an unsettling energy, like the moment before a lightning strike. And then there were the rumors, the eerie shadows that danced where she walked, their movements defying the laws of nature. People claimed to hear her whispers at night, slinking through their dreams like a thief in the dark. Some said she conjured visions of the past, twisting memories into something unrecognizable and raw. Those who'd been touched by her presence spoke of a tightness in their chests, a bone-deep fear that followed them, even when they tried to forget. What truth lay behind her secretive smiles and cryptic glances? Why did the nearby marsh seem to darken when she was near? Curiosity mingled with dread, weaving through the townsfolk like a thick fog they couldn't shake. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Marlow held its breath as the harvest moon rose high, casting an otherworldly glow over the fields. That night, the townsfolk gathered out of trepidation and curiosity, glancing at one another with unease. Just as silence descended, a chilling melody floated through the dark, a haunting tune that seemed to beckon them into the unknown. Was it Iya Benji? Or was it the spirits they feared she had networked with? Hearts raced as shadows flickered, merging with the night, and a voice echoed, "Come closer, if you dare." What lay in wait beyond that line of trembling curiosity? The night was only just beginning to reveal its secrets. As the haunting melody wrapped around them, the townsfolk exchanged nervous glances, a silent debate raging within their eyes. Some felt an irresistible pull, a magnetism to step forward, while others held firm, fear planting their feet to the ground. The moonlight glinted off the restless marsh, a dark mirror reflecting their inner turmoil, amplifying the rumors swirling in their minds. Suddenly, the music stopped, leaving an echo of emptiness that clung to the air like a heavy mist. In that silence, a faint rustle broke through the stillness, and from the edge of the woods, Iya Benji emerged. Her silhouette danced with the shadows, every step deliberate, the forest seeming to bow around her. The townsfolk gasped, their breath hitching. Even in the pale light, her eyes glimmered a fiery blue that felt too alive, too hungry. "What do you seek?" Iya Benji's voice sliced through the silence, unnervingly soft yet echoing with a command that sent shivers racing down their spines. "Why do you haunt my woods on this sacred night?" A brave soul, a young man named Samuel, found himself compelled to answer, his voice shaking. "We wanted to know the truth, about you." At his words, Aya's lips curled into a smile, but there was no joy in it. It was a smile wrapped in mystery, laced with something darker. Truth, child, is a double-edged sword. It can cut through the fabric of your reality, unraveling all you think you know. A murmur rippled through the crowd. They knew the stories, the tales of those who had ventured too far or dared to pry into her life, stories drenched in calamity, lost futures, and fractured souls. "What do you want from us?" A woman in the back shouted, voice pitched with fear. Iya stepped closer, leaving shadows behind her as she crossed into the moonlight, fully revealing herself. Her presence was both captivating and terrifying. I only take from those who willingly offer, she said, her gaze sweeping through the crowd, settling on Samuel once more. For every truth uncovered comes with a cost. Are you willing to pay? Samuel's heart raced as he felt the weight of her stare. He had come seeking answers but was met with something much more profound, a challenge, a dare. A heavy silence descended again, crushing their collective breath, as fear and intrigue waltzed in their minds. What could they give? What would they lose? The air thickened, the tension palpable. Unraveling the truth, Iya whispered, her voice smooth like silk, can bring great power or great destruction. Choose wisely. Then, without warning, the shadows behind her surged forward and twisted in a frenzy of movement, propelling themselves toward the town. Gasps filled the air as figures began to take shape among the swirling darkness, distorted faces twisted in agony and shadows reshaping into haunting figures of those who had vanished from Marlow. Step back. Someone shouted, but it was too late. The darkness was hungry, and it rushed toward them, shrill whispers tugging at their sanity, feeding on their fears. Heartbeats thundered like drums of war, and in that moment of chaos, Samuel made his choice. He stepped forward, feeling the pull of the music, the call for truth drumming in his veins. I will offer, he started, but Iya Benji's laughter rang like a bell, shattering the night. Not yet, she said, a wicked grin twisting her features. First, face what dwells within the shadows. Only then, will your truth be revealed. What monstrous truth awaited them in the depths of darkness? The shadows leered back, hungry and insatiable. The night had only begun to weave its dreadful tales. As the darkness drew nearer, Samuel could feel the weight of countless eyes watching him, awaiting his next move. What choice would he make? The grip of fear tightened around him, but the promise of truth glimmered like a fading light. Could he brave the depths to uncover the secrets buried within Iya's world? The very air he breathed trembled with uncertainty. The darkness enveloped the townsfolk like a shroud, pressing close, squeezing the air from their lungs. Samuel stood at the precipice, heart pounding against his ribcage. Fear whispered in his ear, urging him to retreat, but the thrill of truth ignited a fire in his veins. He took a tentative step forward, the shadows swirled, drawing in closer, taunting him with elongated fingers that reached for his soul. Iya Benji watched with keen interest, her eyes glimmering like twin candles, leading a weary traveler deeper into the woods. What is it that you think you seek? Her tone was almost playful, yet the undertone held a sharpness that cut through the hypnotic haze. Is it the truth of me you desire, or the truth of yourselves? Samuel hesitated. The question hung heavy in the air, twisting around him like the smoke from a dying fire. The townsfolk remained still, breaths caught in their throats, caught between the safety of their fears and the unbearable allure of the unknown. Another figure stepped forward from the crowd, this one with determination etched on her face. Elara, Samuel's childhood friend, her short hair tousled by the night breeze, reached out to him. Sam, think about this. We don't know what she wants. But Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that this was his moment. He had always longed for something more, a life beyond the predictability of small-town existence. I can't let this pass, he said, his voice steadying. If we're to face what's within these shadows, then I'm ready. Ready, Iya Benji echoed, stepping closer still, shadows swirling like turbulent waters at her feet. What bravery, but do not confuse courage for recklessness. Are you prepared to witness the truth? The shadows began to undulate, forming images, memories spilled from another time and place. They flashed before Samuel's eyes, lost loved ones, anguished cries, moments of betrayal that left a scar on the town's soul. He gasped, an echo of screams piercing through the darkness, filling the air like the pungent scent of burning wood. The townsfolk pressed closer, hands trembling, eyes wide. They saw faces of those long-gone relatives, friends, even pets lost to time. What are you showing us? Samuel shouted, a mixture of horror and rage coursing through him. This isn't what we wanted. Aya's expression changed, something darker flickered behind her gaze. These are truths buried deep, grief and guilt that bind you. You think you seek my secrets, but it is your past that must unravel. Samuel, don't, Ilara called out, reaching toward him as he leaned into the shadows. The dead eyes roamed, calling to him, whispering secrets unthinkable. He shook his head, fighting the urge to flee. No, I have to understand. If this is how we break free, I have to confront it. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, crashing against him in a wave of sorrow and rage. They swarmed around him, a torrent of cries, pulling him under. Every embedded hurt, every little shame, flooded his mind, engulfing him in disorienting chaos. Ilara screamed, reaching for him, but Iya raised a hand, her eyes flashing once more. Stop. This is his path. He alone can find the light in the depths of darkness. If you interfere, the cost will be yours as well. Samuel felt his breath quicken, the weight of the dark memories pressing down harder. He could feel himself unraveling, visions twisting together, wrapping around his consciousness. Could he harness this pain? Face it. He shouted, determination burning through the despair. I will not run from my past. I will know. And with that declaration, darkness gave way, revealing a vision, a shadowed figure with familiar features. Eyes wide, Samuel realized it was him, a version of himself lost in despair. The truth lay not just with Iya, but intertwined within his very soul. As the shadows returned, merging, the townsfolk gasped in shock, the lines of fear and anger etched deep into their faces. Samuel seized the moment. He turned to Iya, the challenge lingering in the air. If this is how it begins, then what comes next? Iya's smile returned, a wicked twist of something dark and profound. Then you shall unlock what you truly fear, for darkness only reveals itself when accompanied by the light. The ground trembled as shadows shifted, revealing a portal swirling with whispers. What lay beyond that threshold? Not just truths, but trials that would test their very souls. The moment had come. Would they confront their darkest fears and the terror that loomed just within reach? The night was far from over. The portal loomed, swirling like a tempest caught between worlds. Samuel felt its pull, urging him to step closer. His heart pounded louder than the chaos swirling around him, each thrum reminding him that he stood on the edge of an abyss. He could hear whispers, both pleading and threatening, echoing from the shadows. The townsfolk shivered, fear tightening its grip on their hearts. Ilara's hand reached for his again. Sam, don't. We don't know what is on the other side. It could destroy you. Her voice trembled, catching the attention of the crowd, their eyes darting between their pasts and Samuel's resolve. I have to know, Ilara, he insisted, an edge of desperation creeping into his voice. If all of this can set us free. The thought was intoxicating. To unlock the chains of their history, the grief that hung in the air like fog. Iya Benji watched, her silence heavy with anticipation. Curiosity is a double-edged sword, she murmured, her eyes glinting in the near darkness. What you discover may not be the freedom you seek. Before Samuel could reply, the portal pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Shadows danced around its edge, creating a mesmerizing sight that was both horrific and captivating. He took a step forward, and suddenly the shadows whipped out, grasping at him. They yanked him back as if they sensed his intent and sought to protect their secrets. No! He yelled, fighting against the pull, rage and fear intertwining. Ilara stepped forward, panic in her features. Would she help him, or would she be consumed by the darkness as well? Samuel! She shouted, the name breaking like glass in the air. You can't do this alone. The others hesitated, caught between reaching for him and preserving their own safety. A voice broke through the murmurs. The mayor, a thick-set man with a bushy beard that mirrored his doubts. We've lived in this darkness far too long. It's our past, our fear holding us back. But what if it destroys him? Another voice spoke, trembling with fear and uncertainty. The crowd was alive with a wave of thoughts, weighing the necessity of truth against the risk of release. Everyone, listen. Samuel declared, steeling himself against the encroaching shadows. If we don't face this together, we'll forever be prisoners of our own regrets. I refuse to let fear dictate our futures. At his words, the crowd quieted, uncertainty dancing in their eyes like fireflies caught in a net. In that fragile moment, a flicker of courage began to ignite. One by one they leaned toward the portal, drawn by Samuel's resolve. Together Iya whispered, as if testing the weight of their collective choice. But be warned, the light you seek may blind you more than the darkness. With one last look at Alara, who wore a mix of fear and admiration, Samuel stepped into the portal. Cold air rushed past him, filled with echoes of the past. Faces appeared, memories long buried scratched the surface of his consciousness, his father's laughter, his mother's tears. Shadows of betrayal flickered and faded, only to be followed by incandescent paths leading deeper into untold horrors. The townsfolk gasped, their breaths caught. They sensed something ancient and primal stirring beyond the veil. Samuel's heart raced as he gripped onto his resolve. I won't let fear control us. He shouted, his voice swallowed by the swirling energies. But as he plunged further, a chilling thought clutched at him. What if truth was more horrific than the shadows? Would he find release from his pain, or would the light expose darkness beyond imagining? The portal began to close behind him, and Samuel felt the weight of 1,000 eyes upon him. The price of truth was steep, and in that fading moment, he realized he hadn't just stepped into shadows, he had stepped into the heart of them. Yet the whispers grew louder, promising answers. Just one truth away, what lay on the other side could shatter everything he thought he knew. The darkness wasn't done with him yet. What awaited him beyond the veil could change the very fabric of their existence. Would they survive the revelations to come? The moment Samuel stepped through, the portal swallowed him whole. The world around him twisted, an explosion of colors and shadow swirling together like a cosmic storm. Each heartbeat reverberated in his ears, a countdown to the unknown. Suddenly, he landed hard on solid ground, breathless and disoriented. He was not alone. Figures emerged from the gloom, their features obscured but their presence unmistakable. They watched him with hollow eyes, cold and void of warmth. Samuel staggered to his feet, his heart racing. The air felt electric, charged with something potent that whispered secrets to him. Welcome to the past, a voice echoed, low and resonant. It sent chills crawling through Samuel's spine. He turned to face the speaker, a tall, gaunt figure draped in rags, their face hidden in shadows. You seek the truth, but truth demands a price, they warned, each word dripping with foreboding. Who are you? Samuel demanded, trying to mask his fear. He took a step back, the ground beneath him uneven, threatening to give way beneath his weight. I am a keeper of memories, the figure answered, moving closer. Each soul here has a story, a truth intertwined with yours. Are you ready to face what you've buried deep within? With each word, Samuel felt his resolve falter, but he squared his shoulders. Yes. I have to know. As if sensing his determination, the shadows parted, revealing a vast expanse of memories swirling like mist. Fragments of pasts long forgotten reached out to him, a childhood home ablaze, screams piercing the stillness. Faces twisted, torn between love and sorrow, crowded his mind. His heart raced with each image, each moment a dagger to his conscience. The keeper stepped aside, gesturing toward the chaos. This is your story. These moments shaped who you are. A reckoning awaits. Samuel's breath quickened. No, I can't, but the words died in his throat as a vision washed over him. He saw Alara's face, twisted in anguish, the moment he chose to enter the portal. Her tear-streaked cheeks haunted him, a reminder of their bond fractured by his need to uncover the truth. Samuel, a hushed voice echoed beside him. He spun around, but there was no one. The shadows shifted, wrapping tighter around him, the weight of his guilt heavier than a mountain. It clawed at him, demanding acknowledgement. You left them behind. Is this what you wanted? The keeper hissed, eyes glowing with a strange light. A freedom that comes at the cost of others? What if the darkness you face was born from your own heart? The accusation struck Samuel like lightning, a flash of realization hitting deep. He had done this. He had unleashed these shadows of pain, both in himself and in others. "Step forward, Samuel," the keeper commanded, their voice now a rumble of thunder. "Confront your truth. Only then can you transcend this torment." With trembling legs, Samuel approached the swirling mists of memory. Louder and louder, the voices called out. Each one echoed through his mind his choices, his fears, the betrayal that shattered lives. He felt sick, the realization of responsibility bearing down on him like a leaden weight. What if he couldn't handle it? What if the truth was too much to bear? With every step, doubt seeped into his thoughts, threatening to pull him back into the shadows. Yet as he took a step closer, a pulse of defiance ignited within him. "I will face this," he declared, voice quaking but resolute. "I will not hide." But as the memories surged toward him, a nudge at the edge of his mind whispered something far more insidious. Could he truly bear the burden of his past? Did freedom come with chains of regret? The world around him began to twist furiously, shadows closing in, and images faded into nothingness. Samuel braced himself, as if facing a storm, yet in the chaos, he heard an unsettling truth that could unravel everything he held dear. Did he truly want to uncover what lay in wait? Or would the truth shatter him entirely? The ground beneath him trembled, and all Samuel could do was hold his breath, teetering on the brink of revelation. What awaited him next could amplify his horror or offer him salvation. Would he emerge intact, or would he get lost in the very darkness he sought to confront? The chaotic swirl of shadows began to settle, and Samuel felt the ground beneath him solidifying into a smooth surface. Bracing himself, he opened his eyes to find himself in a different scene, one that felt eerily familiar yet hauntingly wrong. A dimly lit room stretched before him, walls adorned with aging photographs, each portrait capturing smiles that faded into a past filled with secrets. As he stepped forward, the familiar smell of old wood and dust invaded his senses, pulling him into memory. This was his childhood home. Panic gripped him as he realized he had returned not just to the past, but to the moment before everything fell apart. The door creaked open, and through it walked a younger version of himself, blissfully unaware of the shadows lurking just beyond the threshold. Samuel watched, rooted to the spot. "Don't!" he shouted, but no sound escaped his lips. Instead, he was forced to witness a chilling sense of helplessness wrapped around him like a vice. He watched as the young Samuel bounced into the room, filled with innocence and laughter, completely oblivious to the storm brewing outside. Lightning cracked in the distance, thunder echoed like the pounding of his heart. A soft voice floated in from the hallway, pulling younger Samuel's attention. "Sammy, come help me." It was Alara, her bright spirit shining through even the ages. In that fleeting moment, he saw the joy between them, a slice of life that felt so pure, but the tension grew, and the air thickened. Samuel dared to glance out the window, his heart dropping. He could see shadows creeping closer, dark tendrils twisting and coiling, feeding on time itself, threatening to invade his sanctuary. Suddenly, the door burst open. In that moment of horror, a figure stormed in, faceless and cloaked in darkness. Young Samuel froze, eyes wide with confusion. The keeper's voice echoed back in his mind, a freedom that comes at the cost of others. The darkness in that figure was overwhelming, a storm of rage and pain ready to transpire. No, no, no. He wanted to shout, but he was a mere spectator in his own history. His breaths quickened as he envisioned the childhood moments he'd taken for granted, the warmth of laughter, the splash of water from their games, the safety of home. It was all about to shatter. He had to intervene. He couldn't stand by and watch the past repeat itself, could he? With renewed determination lighting up his spirit, he willed himself to move closer. "I can stop this," he breathed, the electric air crackling around him. But just as he felt himself breaking through, a blinding light erupted. It suffocated him, it swallowed the room. Samuel felt his heart thumping against his ribcage, the rush of panic taking over as everything blurred into a cacophony of voices. Samuel. Ilara's voice pierced through the storm, sharp and desperate. Help me. And then, suddenly, silence. Darkness enveloped him again, the shadows pulling back momentarily as if they too were scared of what lay ahead. He gasped for breath, feeling as though he had been plunged into an icy abyss. A flicker of light emerged in the distance, beckoning him closer. What lay at the end of that flicker? Answers? A confrontation with regret? Or something maybe worse, more than ever, Samuel had to decide. Would he step toward the truth, facing the haunted echoes of his past? Or would he turn back, losing Ilara once and for all in the shadows? The ground trembled again beneath him, and it felt like time itself held its breath. What awaited him next was a choice that could shatter the fragile thread of his reality. Would he be brave enough to embrace the truth? The flicker of light grew brighter, a beacon in the suffocating darkness. Samuel took a tentative step toward it, his heart racing with every thud against his ribcage. The light pulsed like a living thing, drawing him in. Memories of laughter, warmth, and joy surged around him like frantic waves, but the shadows whispered their siren song. Turn back, Samuel. Though fear gnawed at him, he pushed the doubts aside. He had to face the truth, no matter how terrifying. Each step felt like diving deeper into an ocean of uncertainty. As he approached the light, it transformed into a doorway, shimmering as if it held a world waiting just beyond the veil. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. The moment he crossed through the threshold, a rush of cold air enveloped him, sending shivers racing down his spine. Gone were the familiar smells of home. Instead, the air was thick with rot and decay, a stark contrast to the warmth of his memories. He staggered into a long, narrow corridor lined with doors on either side, each one marked with a number that flickered erratically. Panic clawed at his insides. Which door leads to the truth? He murmured, his voice barely louder than a whisper. Suddenly, a low, guttural growl echoed behind him. He spun around, but there was nothing, only shadows merging into a darker form. Ilara, he breathed, her name caught in his throat as the sound clawed at his heart. He felt her presence lurking just out of sight. Following instinct, he darted down the corridor, counting doors as he went. Each step was deliberate, each heartbeat would scream through the silence. And horror piled onto horror as he realized the numbers on the doors were familiar. They matched the ages of young Samuel. There has to be a reason, he thought, dread pooling in his gut. At last, he reached door 13, the last number he could bear to see. It was slightly ajar, a faint light emanating from within. Samuel hesitated, a colossal weight pressing on his chest. The air grew still, suffocating him like a vice. With shaking hands, he pushed the door open. Inside, the room was bathed in an otherworldly glow, illuminating an empty chair centered in what felt like a courtroom. Dust particles danced in the light, swirling like memories long forgotten. Beneath the chair, a golden locket lay open, revealing a picture of Ilara as a child. His heart dropped. What happened? He murmured, heart pounding in a frantic rhythm. He stepped into the room, lured by the locket's light. The walls of the chamber seemed to pulse, betraying the weight of unspoken truths. Before he could reach the chair, the shadows coiled tighter, lashing out like vengeful serpents. No! He cried, fear igniting a primal instinct. The locket's glow flickered like a dying star. Glancing back toward the door, all reason slipped away. He could feel it. He needed to defend himself against the darkness. As the shadows lunged, something flickered in his peripheral vision. He glanced back and saw the locket start to pulsate violently, images swirling within. Ilara's voice screeched in his mind like a siren, Samuel. You must choose, face the darkness or save your past. Just as the shadows lashed out, Samuel's hands shot forward, gripping the locket. Its warmth pulsed through him, and everything around him shattered into fragments of time. Voices mingled with echoes of laughter, the past colliding with the present. Would he harness the power within the locket to confront the darkness, or would he be consumed by its relentless cravings? The walls trembled as reality twisted and turned, leaving him dangling on the precipice of fate. Answers awaited him, but at what cost? The locket's warmth seeped into Samuel, wrapping him in a cloak of memories, half comforting, half terrifying. Outside, the shadows writhed and hissed, grasping for him like ethereal fingers reaching from the abyss. Samuel closed his eyes, feeling the energy pulse from the locket like a heartbeat. He focused on Ilara's image, the innocent smile of childhood trapped within. Memories exploded around him, laughter echoing from sun-drenched fields, the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting through their home. But beneath that sweet nostalgia lay an undercurrent of sorrow, hurt, and secrets left unspoken. "Choose," Ilara's voice rang out, her tone tinged with urgency. "You have to fight or you may lose everything." The shadows surged, an ominous wave of darkness threatening to engulf him. Samuel felt panic surge through him. What do I do? He thought desperately. In that moment, he remembered a lesson from childhood: fear was a beast that could grow with every doubt, every hesitation. The choice before him became clear: he could either succumb to the terror or wield it. Summoning all his courage, he opened his eyes and embraced the locket, channeling its warmth into a shield against the shadows. "I am not afraid," he shouted, his voice echoing, a proclamation against the encroaching darkness. The shadows faltered, recoiling slightly. He took a step toward the chair that called to him, the locket illuminating the room with a hope that felt almost tangible. But as he moved, the air thickened, and whispers rose from the depths, horrid voices echoing the fears he had buried for far too long. "Do you think you can save her?" A shrill voice mocked, tears of darkness pressing on him. Then he saw them, faces flickered in the shadows, familiar, twisted in anguish. Friends he once held dear, their eyes wide with despair. "Help! Save us!" they cried out, but in their urgency lay a chilling accusation. "No!" he shouted, shaking his head, trapped in the horror of their gaze. "I'm not here for you." With every ounce of resolve, Samuel pushed forward, heart thrumming like a war drum. He reached the chair, and without thinking, he dropped to his knees. "Ilara!" he cried into the void, gripping the locket as if it were the last thread of hope. The room trembled, as if the very fabric of reality were stretched thin. The locket's light intensified, and for a grotesque moment, he was transported. Flashes surged through his mind, Ilara's laughter blending with her cries, shadows coiling around them as she disappeared into darkness without warning. The day she vanished became a movie playing out, each scene a grim reminder of the monster lurking just beyond reach. "Face the truth, Samuel," urged Ilara, her voice suddenly clear, cutting through the confusion like a knife. "You need to remember what you suppressed." Heart racing, he trembled. What truth? The truth that had haunted him since childhood, the moments he'd wished away like familiar ghosts. At that moment, he realized the locket held the key. It was not just a trinket but a gateway to the memories he had long sealed away. He needed to unlock the answers buried in the past, to expose the shadows for what they truly were. With that understanding, Samuel focused, eyes snapping open. "Show me," he demanded, voice fierce with a newfound power he couldn't quite comprehend. And as his will collided with the darkness, the insistent growls grew louder, filling his ears with a cacophony. The room spun, the shadows roared in protest, and then the world exploded into a blinding light. But as the light engulfed him, panic whispered in the corners of his mind. What would he uncover? What dark truth awaited him within the depths of his own soul? Samuel's fate hung by a thread, teetering on the edge of revelation and despair. The light enveloped Samuel, swallowing him whole and transporting him into a realm where reality twisted and turned like a nightmarish dream. Golden rays faded into murky hues, and the comforting warmth of the locket morphed into a chilling grip around his heart. With a jolt, he found himself standing in a distorted version of his childhood home. Walls flickered like broken film, memories bleeding in and out, trapped between what was and what could have been. He could hear whispers muffled but insistent, the voices of people he should know. Samuel's stomach churned at the familiarity, yet the faces remained just out of reach, obscured by shadows that writhed and danced, taunting him. "Samuel!" A voice cut through the darkness, sharp and piercing. It was Ilara. He turned towards it but saw only more shadows, shifting and contorting at the edges of his vision. "You have to confront them. The truth is here. Face it. Where are you?" He shouted back against the torrent of confusion and despair, desperation clawing at his throat. The shadows pulsed, their whispers a chaotic symphony of anguish that made his skin crawl. Ghostly figures weaved in and out, their outlines faint, their expressions twisted with pain. "Help us, Samuel!" cried one figure, whose face momentarily shimmered into clear focus, an old friend lost in the chaos of his memories. "Don't abandon us." Tears prickled at the corners of his eyes. "I can't help you," he screamed, the truth stinging. "I have to save Ilara." But as soon as he spoke her name, a piercing echo of Ilara's laughter rang out. It morphed, shifting into a strangled cry that sent ice through his veins. "You left us behind," the shadows hissed, their voices intertwining, spiraling into a vortex of blame and shadows. Samuel pressed his palms against his ears, trying to drown out the tumult. "Stop. Please," he begged, words rushing out like a prayer. "Just give me a chance." The locket flared brightly in his hand, its energy pulsating with life. Grabbing hold of that power, he summoned the courage buried deep within. "I will face the truth. Show me." As if the shadows were listening, they coiled tighter, and then released him into a scene that felt both intimate and foreign, a Christmas morning from his childhood. The room was filled with the scent of pine, laughter rang out, a warmth promising togetherness. But then, a darkness crept into the corners of the memory, his parents arguing, a sound of glass shattering. Samuel's heart raced as he pressed forward, drawn to a younger version of himself watching through the crack of a door. "Why wouldn't you let me be happy?" The child's voice broke through the rancor, fragile and trembling. "Because you don't understand." A figure, too shadowy to discern, shouted back, the walls of memory threatening to collapse under the weight of sadness. "Samuel!" Ilara's voice echoed in a distant whisper, urging him to explore further. Desperate not to lose her once more, he leaned into the memory, but darkness rushed in. Tendrils of shadow reached for him, grasping at his ankles, pulling him back. A hidden truth bubbled beneath the surface, elusive yet undeniable. "I'm not afraid," he declared again, reciting the mantra like a lifebuoy tossed into a turbulent sea. Yet deep within, uncertainty lingered like a storm waiting to break. In a heartbeat, he was yanked back to the present, darkness swirling around him like a living entity, eager to consume him. He faced it, determined to break through the noise, hoping to cling to the light, striving for clarity in a world gone mad, but just as clarity came into view, shadows twisted, coiling around him once again, their whispers now taunting, overpowering, promising to reveal everything he buried. What would he find when he faced the truth? Would it save him, or plunge him further into despair? Samuel's heart raced as the familiar silhouette of Ilara faded from view, leaving him to battle the shadows alone, battling for his soul against an unseen force. Was he strong enough to face his past, or would the truth destroy him? The portal closed behind Samuel with a definitive snap, the darkness swirling like an angry sea. His heart pounded in his chest, and he was alone again, deep in the shadows of his past. Each flicker of memory felt like a punch to the gut, electrifying terror and heartache flooding his senses. The shadows whispered intangible echoes of regret that pulled at him, threatening to drag him back into despair. "Samuel!" Ilara's voice cut through the chaos, distant yet sharp enough to ignite purpose. The darkness shifted, revealing layers of moments he had wished to forget. Faces flickered in and out, familiar figures lost in the tides of time. "What do you want from me?" he shouted, desperation clawing at his throat. The shadows laughed softly, a chilling sound that reverberated through the dark. "What do you want, Samuel? Is it to grasp at the light or to linger in the dark?" He swallowed hard, a lump pressing in his throat. "I want to save Ilara." The air thickened, shadows stretched and elongated, wrapping around his limbs like chains. You left her behind, didn't you? You ran to find freedom but abandoned her to darkness. With defined clarity, Samuel realized it was true. Every time he hesitated to step into light, he had shifted blame, hid his fears, and run from the shadows that painted more than they revealed. He had come here seeking the truth not only about Iya Benji but about himself, and he had to face it, even if it cut him deep. I won't hide anymore. He roared, the power of his declaration rippling through the air. I will face what I've become, and I will find her. I will not let the darkness take her, or me. As if summoned by his commitment, images of Ilara flooded around him, her smile, her laughter, moments they had shared. Guilt wrestled within him, threatening to crush his heart, but he stood his ground. Show me the truth, he demanded, steadying himself against the raging waves of shadows that whipped about him. I'm ready. The shadows recoiled, revealing a pathway that shimmered like glass. On the other side lay whispers of hope mingled with fear. But with resolve coursing through him, he plunged forward, ready to confront the foundation of his anguish. Suddenly, he was in a swirling realm where the past met the present. Memories collided like thunder, revealing his younger self standing on that same Christmas morning, wide-eyed and innocently caught between the warmth of family and the cold grip of despair. No! Samuel shouted, bounding toward the innocent child, desperate to shield him from what lay ahead. You don't have to suffer. I'm here. But the figure continued, oblivious to his presence, exposed to the fears darkening the edges of his joy. The child reached for an ornament, his face reflecting excitement until arguing voices tore through the room, splintering happiness into shards of pain. You don't understand. His mother yelled, voice cracking, the shadows creeping closer to consume the bliss of the moment. Tears brimmed in Samuel's eyes as he watched the sunlight dimming, replaced by cold, clammy fingers of despair creeping into the corners of the room. He felt it, the anguish of helplessness that had haunted him for years. I was so scared, the child whispered, crumpling in upon himself as shadows loomed. I didn't want this. Watching his younger self break was like a knife driving into Samuel's heart. You're not alone. He cried out, swinging between past and present like a pendulum caught in time. Ilara would never leave you. You are strong enough to fight, I promise. The shadows thickened, swirling in defiance, but just as despair threatened to pull Samuel back, the warmth of the locket pulsed against his chest. It ignited something, the spark of courage he thought was long extinguished. The memories shifted, and he ran towards the child clad in shadows. Face it. You are not the mistakes of your past. He shouted, reaching for the child who cowered beneath the weight of darkness. You are more. You can let go of this burden. In an explosion of blinding light, the shadows recoiled. The child blinked up at him, eyes filled with confusion but ignited with hope. Who are you? I'm you. Samuel replied, his voice strong and echoing through the confines of their shared pain. We can change. Together, we can rewrite our story. In that moment, recognition sparked in the child's eyes, twinkle and innocence blending into a newfound strength. But I'm scared. What if we fail? We won't be alone. Samuel shouted. Ilara is waiting for us. And just like that, the child took his hand, and the darkness shifted. It parted, revealing a path where light spilled through. They walked forward, hand in hand, dissolving old fears with each step. With newfound courage, Samuel felt the shadows retreat, and he let go of the burdens that had chained him for so long. He grasped Ilara's memory tightly, allowing the warmth of their connection to fuel him, shoving aside despair. Together, they surged forward into brilliant light, into their future. And then, like a gust of wind sweeping through an open door, he felt an energy unraveling inside him. The shadows shrieked in anger as they were banished back into the void. Samuel turned, seeing the darkness dissolve, leaving traces of laughter where only anguish had been, and then, in the distance, he saw her, Ilara, illuminated like a star in the night, standing waiting, unscathed and smiling. A radiant beam of hope. Samuel. She echoed, arms wide, drawing him in. You did it. Meeting her gaze sparked understanding. They had both faced their demons, united against darkness when it threatened to consume them. Elara, he whispered, relief washing over him like cold water, I was lost, but I found my way back. She stepped forward, and as their fingers intertwined, the warmth of their connection radiated fiercely, wrapping the shadows of the past in silken threads of resolution. The night had been a journey through pain, but it had led them here, the light that scattered the darkness, the truth that healed wounds deeper than any shadow could forge. Together, they were whole again. We can rebuild, Samuel pressed, no longer burdened by the spectral chains of regret. We'll face whatever comes next together. With a nod of understanding, Elara smiled. Yes. Together. As the dawn broke over the horizon, painting everything in hues of golden hope, the townsfolk gathered, stunned yet uplifted, the lingering shadows of fear giving way to stories of resilience. They had faced the truth and emerged, not unscathed but transformed, ready to forge a new world where darkness could no longer hold sway. The echoes of their journey resonated through Marlow, as they walked toward freedom in the light of a new day, hand in hand, with courage guiding their way. And before you go, this is your moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep these amazing tales coming. Don't just leave without saying something. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And you can't forget to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this thrilling conclusion plays out. Don't wait even one more second to share, only true fans understand how vital it is to lift this community into the light.